My name is Marie Jenkins. My birth date is 10/2/23, and I was born in Jacksonville, Jacksboro, Tennessee.
Now, this interview is by Scott Davis, and this is part of the Cane Hill Oral History Project, and we want to be sure that you understand that we may use this for educational purposes and that we have your permission to do the interview.
Well, I don't have anything to tell you.
But that is a yes, right? We have your permission?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, tell me who your parents were. My parents was
George Raines, and my mother was Sadie Raines.
Okay. Tell me about your family when you were growing up, your siblings and your family.
When I was growing up, there was 11 of us, and we just had fights like everybody else. Us girls did.
Tell me about your earliest memories of Cane Hill. When did you first move to Cane Hill?
1957.
Can you tell me about it? Who all moved here?
Now you said you was going to ask me questions. What'd you say?
About when you were kids.
So how old were you when you moved to Cane Hill?
I was in my 30s, I think. I don't remember how old I was.
Did your kids go to school at Cane Hill?
Yeah, no. Went to Lincoln.
They went to Lincoln. Well, where did you work? What was your job? Did you work at the store? Tell me about working at Jenkins' store. What was the store, and what was your job? What did you do there?
Oh, a little bit of everything. I worked in a meat department and cleaned the store and checked them out and did the paperwork.
How long did you work there at the store?
Well, we moved here in '57. We rented that house across from the stores up there that you're working on, and rented that middle one. We gave $12 for the rent on the house and $15 rent on the store. And we stayed in the store, I don't know, a couple of years or something. Then we bought the old banks, and we went and redone it and moved our store over there. And we kept it till well, he was about 2 years before he passed away. We closed out.
Who'd you rent the house from?
Pardon?
Who did you rent the house from?
Connor Russell's uncles, who we were in the house from.
Now, when you moved here, is when you started working at the store? Is that why you moved here, to open the store?
Yeah, we opened the store when we moved here.
Did you take over from Shakers, or had Shakers closed down?
He had closed.
How long had Shakers been closed? Do you know?
I don't know how long he'd been closed before we moved here.
So you started in the...
The post office was still in there when we was doing the store in there.
Okay. Tell me what it was like in the store when you first worked there. What did you sell, and what did people do when they came in besides shop?
Well, they went around and gathered their stuff up and checked them out and shot the breeze. The men would go up there every morning we had a place to sit outside benches, you know, and they'd go up there every morning and wait for the mail. And then when the mail came, they would go back, ate their dinner, and come back and sat there and tell stories to everyone. But I just did everything in the store. As I say, I cleaned it. Margaret Lofton worked for us. And we had fun. I went and pumped gas and cleaned the windows on the cars.
Was the watering trough still out there in the middle of the road?
No.
It was.
They had just taken it all away.
And the road was paved when you.
No, it was around the store up there, but this was. She said when she went down here, they had it gravelled, but when we came here, well, the dust was just flying. It was not paved.
Where you live now, is that where you lived when you had the store on this property here?
No,
you were living over there across the street.
No, my husband was sick, had asthma and emphysema, and they told us to move up on a hill somewhere, and we moved up there where Dwayne Pite lives now, till we bought the house. And we bought the house, and we moved down here, and it was sitting right down here, and it burned.
So tell me about people who come into the store. There's a lot of, did they play cards? Did they play dominoes? Or they just visit? What all did they do?
No, they just stood around and talked.
Were there any other stores here in Cane Hill?
No.
So did pretty much tell me about the store. It was more than just a place to buy stuff, wasn't it? Wasn't it kind of the local information center and the visiting place?
Oh, somebody came and asked information all the time. But I couldn't get nothing out of them. Margaret couldn't either. But when Ellis came, well, they'd tell him. One day she says, the way Ellis went and got their names, well, if he didn't know them, you know, and he'd say, I'm so-and-so, you know, and they'd say no, that was they'd tell him his name. So he was going to Fort Smith one day, and Margaret says, the next one comes and we don't know, said, I'm going to say, are you so-and-so? And they wouldn't answer.
So who are some of the people that you remember that would come into the store a lot? Who were some of your customers?
Oh, Lord, Betty and Harold Coburn. And the Hurleys lived over where their house burnt. Oh, there was a lot. John Brockman. I can't remember all of them. But they were all over. They was from everywhere that came up there. And we just told you I couldn't take it.
So are you familiar with the work they're doing here in town to restore some of the old buildings?
Pardon?
Are you familiar with the work they're doing here in town to fix up some of these old buildings?
No.
You're not?
I can't get out to go check them out or anything.
Okay.
So I don't get to know anything.
Well, tell me, are there any other stories you can think of about Cane Hill you want to share? What are some of your best memories of growing up here? Or living here, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. Everyone that died, they call me. Well, even at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Why is that? Tell me what you mean by that.
I guess because they love me. I don't know. They would just call me, and I'd get up and go and kind of take over and and kind of help them get adjusted and everything.
So when someone in the community lost a family member, they would call you to come console them and do
Yeah.
that. So what all would you do? Tell me some stories about this. Who are some examples, maybe?
Well, I can't remember what their names, but Penniless lived over here. It was a two-story house, and one morning about 2 o'clock, she was out hollering, "Oh, Marie, oh, Miss Jenkins, oh, Miss Jenkins," and it woke me up, and I got up and went out to see, and I answered her, and she said, "Come over here right quick." Says he's so cold. So I got Ellis up, and my nephew was here, and I got him up too to go with me. We went over, and she just had him covered with blankets like you wouldn't believe. And she said he's so cold, and I don't know how long he'd been dead, but she thought he was cold. And he had gotten up and tried to light the gas heater. And there was papers everywhere where he had tried to lie. But I don't know how long he'd been dead. Well, then I went and had to call Luke and Bill's, and I had to call his sister. Z-Tari was his sister. Jim and Z-Tari, they used to come to the store. They used to come visit us all the time. And there's so many I can't remember.
What are some other stories from the people in the community that you remember? Things that maybe happened when you worked at the store, or people that came by?
Well, when we came here, they came this day we moved in and invited us to church up there at Cane Hill. So we went, and it was full. The church was full. They had 3 different Bibles. And then in the afternoon, when we get lunch over with, we'd gather in the field up there. I'd be the only one, but I gathered with my kids and everybody else's kids. We played ball.
About what year would that have been?
Well, I can't remember what year it was because Joyce was 4 months old when we moved here. She wasn't old enough to play, but
Early 60s, maybe?
the others was. So I raised 4 kids here.
So what was it like for the kids growing up here in the late 50s and early 60s? I mean, what did kids do for fun?
Well, there wasn't much to do for fun. They just got out and played, rode their bicycles, and I got Joyce a little old electric scooter thing, something like a motorcycle. And she just, little old bitty thing, and nobody was going up and down the road, And she'd get up there and she'd just fly on that thing, and her hair was so thin and it was just a blowing. And she was so funny. But they went to school, Martha Elizabeth Moore, and Lon and Myrtle. They came traded with us. But I don't know what to tell you.
What did the adults when you first moved here and were working at the store all those years, what did the adults in the community do for fun? They didn't run to Fayetteville every time they needed something, did they? What did y'all do for fun around here?
Do for what?
For fun.
Well, I just played ball with the kids, and just gathered and gossiped, I guess.
Gathered gossip.
We'd meet up at the schoolhouse and play rook.
Who all was there?
Well, Betty and Howard and oh, I can't remember. Penny and Val Rutherford. You knew them, didn't you? I don't know. What?
Pyatt's? Clem and Jim Pyatt?
I didn't know them. One morning they called me up on the mountain to come up on the mountain. Somebody died from on the mountain. An old man used to come and he wore overalls, and he would come in and he'd have his list. You know, his wife had written a list, and he'd come in and gather his stuff up, and he said, my wife gave me a list here to get, you know. Well, I'd gather it up, and he said, now could I ask you something else? And I'd say yes. And he said, will you go out there and turn me around, head me home. I'd go out and turn his car around, head him towards home. And he's the one that they call me up on the mountain. And they'd want me to make want me to do all that stuff for them, you know. And I couldn't do that.
Arrangements for the funeral?
What?
Arrangements for the funeral?
Yeah, they want me to make arrangements for funeral, and I would take my coffee pot. They'd take my coffee pot, and sometimes they wouldn't have anything to wear, and they'd want me to let them have some of my stuff to wear. And Juanita McClellan and I were real good friends, and when we was driving, we get out and have best time because she was free and I was too, you know. And if I went somewhere, she went with me. If she went somewhere, I went with her.